It does not get any better than this. All right, everybody, you requested it, so you're getting it. Today we're going all the way back to 1971. And it's hard to believe it's been that long. To take a look at one of the greatest action, icon launching, call it whatever you will, motion pictures of all times. We are talking about Dirty Harry. Often imitated, never duplicated. Anyway, before we dig into this any further, before we look at this masterpiece of cinema anymore, once again, and as always, to the trailer.
This is about a movie about a couple of killers. Harry Callahan. And a homicidal maniac. The one with the badge is Harry. Oh! They called him Dirty Harry. And he kept inventing new ones.
Don't pass out yet. No.
That was a pretty good pinch you made yesterday. The chief was pleased.
He was, huh?
Yeah, he really was. He wanted me to tell you well done.
I'll tell you how deeply moved I am.
How do you like that? I pass along a compliment? You could at least be a little bit polite. It might not even kill you to say thanks.
I'd much rather say thanks to a raise.
Hey, Harry, check communications. Something from Chicago. I've got it.
I'm putting somebody with you.
Well, you know what happens to the guys that I've worked with. Dietrich's still in the hospital with a bullet in his gut, and Fanducci's dead.
Now, you're working with Gonzalez, or you're not working. Now, that's straight from the 5th floor. You got it?
I know what you're thinking. Did he fire 6 shots, or only 5? Well, to tell you the truth, in all this excitement, I've kind of lost track myself. But being this is a .44 Magnum, the most powerful handgun in the world, and would blow your head clean off, you've got to ask yourself one question. Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
Doesn't it drive your wife crazy?
No.
Yeah, she got used to it.
No, she never did, really.
Well, what then?
She's dead.
Oh, please forgive me.
She was driving home late one night, drunk across the center line. There's no reason for it, really.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay. Look, I want you to tell Chico that I understand, him quitting. I think he's right. This is no life for you two.
Why do you stay in it then?
I don't know. I really don't.
Send Inspector Callahan in. Mr. Mayor, Inspector Callahan. All right. Let's have it.
Let's have what?
Your report. What have you been doing?
Oh, well, for the past 3/4 of an hour, I've been sitting on my ass in your outer office, waiting on you.
Damn it all, Harry. That's the mayor you're talking to.
Clint Eastwood. Detective Harry Callahan. You don't assign him
Stop!
to murder cases. You just turn him loose.
What the hell is he doing up there?
Okay, this motion picture was directed by Don Siegel. No stranger to any of us, no stranger to Clint Eastwood. He has done motion pictures like Escape from Alcatraz. He did Telephone, and The Shootist, and The Beguiled, and Jinxed, and Coogan's Bluff, and Death of a Gunfighter, and Two Mules for Sister Sarah, and Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and The Verdict, the one from 1946, not the 80s or whatever, and the TV stuff, The Doctor, Code 3, Frontier. So, long list of titles, been around a long time, did a lot of things you're going to know and remember. Here we go. Okay, played Inspector Harold, Harry to his friends, Callahan, the one, the only, the legend that is still with us somehow, and thank God we are talking about Clint Eastwood. Let's run the numbers. We are talking about he has been in stuff like Every Which Way But Loose. He has been in Pale Rider and High Plains Drifter and $1 Million Baby and Firefox and Unforgiven and Gran Torino and The Outlaw Josie Wales and Bronco Billy and The Gauntlet, which is one of my favorite movies of all time, and The Iger Sanction and Kelly's Heroes and Where Eagles Dare, Escape from Alcatraz and all those spaghetti westerns and Honky Tonk Man and Tightrope. It can go on and on and on for days. Is what it was. There's only one, folks. Played Chico Gonzalez. His partner, Reni Santoni. Let's run the numbers. He was in stuff like Bad Boys. He was in things like Cobra, which we'll touch on later, and 28 Days, and The Student Nurses, and I Never Promised You a Rose Garden, and TV. You know, The Rookies, Hawaii Five-0, Lou Grant, Manimal, Hill Street Blues, Midnight Caller, Murder One, Around. Not one of those guys who you sit there and say, okay, he's a mega schmega star or any shit like that. But you see his face and you're like, I know this dude. I've seen this dude. Wasn't he in? He's that kind of guy. Playing Lieutenant Bressler, Harry Guardino. If you were around back then, you remember the face. Let's run it. He was in things like The Enforcer and Barabbas and Roller Coaster and St. Ives and Get Christy Love and King of Kings and Pork Chop Hill and literally probably every TV show ever created. The Untouchables, The Reporter, The Outer Limits, The New Perry Mason, Police Story. Again, a face you remember if you're from my time and my generation. You'd be like, I know that dude. Name might not hit you, but I know that dude. Playing DiGiorgio, John Mitchum. Let's give this guy some fucking attention, shall we? Let's run the numbers. He was in stuff like High Plains Drifter and Paint Your Wagon and The Enforcer and Telefon and Outlaw Josie Wales and Breakheart Pass and Magnum Force and Bloody Trail and Chisholm and Paint Your Wagon and TV. You know, F Troop, The Virginian, Bonanza, Ironside, Doc Elliott. He was around. He was in a lot of things. He's not a star. He's not one of those names that jump out at you. But damn it, he was around me. He deserves a little bit of attention. Come on. Playing Scorpio. The one and only Andrew Robinson. And we will talk about him much more later on. We're talking he was in things like Cobra. He was in stuff like Hellraiser and The Drowning Pool and Shoot to Kill and Child Play 3 and Pumpkinhead 2 and The Puppet Masters and TV. Deep Space Nine is a biggie. And Mantis and The Twilight Zone and Dukes of Hazzard and Heart to Heart, A-Team and Barnaby Jones and The Amazing Spider-Man. So, Andy Robinson, a lot of this movie should give credit to Andy Robinson. But we'll touch on that in a moment. Playing the mayor of San Francisco himself, the one, the only, John Vernon. Let's run the numbers. We're talking about Animal House. We're talking about Killer Clowns from Outer Space and The Outlaw Josie Wales and Airplane 2 and Mob Story and Savage Streets and Herbie Goes Bananas and Swiss Family Robinson and everything on TV. Mission Impossible, FBI, Kung Fu, Cannon, Delta House, which was a spin-off of Animal House, and The Blue and the Gray and T.J. Hooker and Knight Rider, and the guy was just around, man. John Vernon is like friggin' B-level royalty. And there's also some other people that pop up in this thing. You know, that they just get cool stuff to mention. We're talking about John Larch. He was in stuff like Amityville Horror and Play Mystery for Me on TV and The Virginian. And Joseph Sommer, he was in Strange Days, for God's sakes, and Witness. So there's a lot of other little faces. I'm just trying to keep it to the main core cast of characters and the people that you're going to remember the most. Now let's get going to the story. Okay, everybody, we're going to do this in 90 seconds or less so we can keep it short, keep it fast, keep it entertaining, keep it moving, and so we can get to where we would to where we spend the most time, the summation. This motion picture starts out, you got this guy, he's on top of a rooftop. He's looking down on another rooftop, and on that building, a woman is swimming in a pool. He's got a long-range hunting rifle, and you have a feeling something's going to go wrong. Soon enough, it does. He shoots the woman, she dies, is the way it is. Now, moments later, there's a police investigation going on where one, Harry Callahan shows up to see what's going on and notices there's a taller building behind that one, and he goes up to investigate, where he finds a spent shell casing and a note. And the note is from a psychopath named Scorpio, demanding a whole bunch of money or he's going to shoot one of the locals and kill a priest and do all kinds of other demented shit. Well, Harry gets called into the mayor's office. Well, he's in the mayor's office. The mayor says to him, we're going to tell him the paper. We're going to give in to his demands. It'll buy us some time. Is what it is. Harry doesn't really agree, but whatever. He leaves. He gets himself a hot dog at a local place where he's a usual eater. During this time, he notices a car in front of a bank, which launches into one of the greatest scenes in motion picture history, where sooner or later, much sooner, a shootout breaks out from the bank robber's point of view and from Harry's point of view, and one of the bank robbers goes down. And you know that classic line, did I fire 6 shots or only 5? Oh yeah, that takes place. After all that fun and excitement takes place, you know there's going to be a little bit of twist to the story, and the twist is that they give Harry a new partner. He's not really excited because, you know, his partners usually tend to end up dead or in the hospital. But he takes on this young guy who's fresh out of college, new to this whole game, and I guess he's going to have to show him the ropes. Well, later on, Scorpio tries again, but he gets foiled by helicopter police, and he runs off and he escapes. But, he is determined to try from that very rooftop once again. After this, you get the usual cop stuff, you know, Harry and his partner running around, peeking in windows thinking they got the guy, rescuing jumpers, which they completely stole and put in Lethal Weapon, but we'll get into that later. You know, the normal cop activity. Next morning, another shooting happens. This time a 10-year-old kid is taken out by that sick piece of shit, the Scorpio, and Harry and, of course, his partner go and investigate. But now they're like, okay, this guy's crazy. He's going to try to go back to the very same rooftop he went to before. This guy's a little bit nuts. He's going to do something nuts. They go there. They have a major shootout with Mr. Scorpio. He escapes once again. Before you know it, they have another letter arrive. This letter says, I've got a girl. She's only 10 years old, or 14 or whatever she was. I can't remember. I'm sorry. I can't remember. But he says, unless I get all that money, she's going to suffocate to death. Here's proof. Here's some of her clothing. Here's one of her teeth. Harry says, you know this girl is dead. They're like, we don't care, go pay him. Go do what you have to do. So they send Harry to go give the money to the Scorpio. Scorpio runs him around, telephone booth, telephone booth, telephone booth, make sure he's not being tailed. Shh. His partner is actually tailing him to keep him safe. Long story short, he gets to a park, the Scorpio beats the crap out of him. His partner shows up to save the day, but his partner gets shot, as does all Harry's partners, and he goes down. Next thing you know, Harry's up, fires a shot, Scorpio gets away, but he does have a knife in the back of his leg, courtesy of one Harold Callahan. A few minutes later, Harry's in his boss's office, gets a phone call. Hey, somebody at the hospital might know who this guy is. They go down, they interview the guy. He says, hey, he's the groundskeeper across the street. Harry goes across the street to find out, and he chases the Scorpio down, where he shoots him in the leg and tortures him for a while until he gives up where the girl is. They find the girl. Obviously, she's dead. They try to go see what's going on with the Scorpio to convict him, but the DA says we can't because it was an illegal search and you tortured him, so he walks. Harry doesn't like this. He goes following this guy on his own time, checking out everything he does. Well, Scorpio doesn't like that, so he tries to frame Harry by paying some dude to beat the shit out of him, saying Harry did. Is what it is. Well, Scorpio now, he loses his mind. He wants to get all the money, so he kidnaps a bus full of little kids and says, have an airplane waiting for me at the airport. I'm going to take these kids to God knows where. Maybe you'll get them back. I want my money. Just the way it goes. But that doesn't sit well with one Inspector Harold Callahan, who says, forget this shit. I'm done playing games. My man is history. I'm not going to tell you really what happens after that, but you get the idea. That's kind of the story. Let's get rolling to the summation. Okay, everybody. Does Dirty Harry work? Of course Dirty Harry works. Dirty Harry is one of the all-time great cop action anti-hero flicks ever put forth on cinema. I mean, this is as good as it gets. It's the standard bearer upon which so many others, whether it was Lethal Weapon, whether it was Cobra, whether it was ever, tried to copy. They come from Dirty Harry. It's just the way it goes. It's legendary, and it's damn well a perfect picture. But we'll get more into that later. Let's get the big three out of the way. The directing. Directing looks great. Don Siegel knows how to make a motion picture. It is what it is. There's parts of this motion picture where they really go a lot of handheld to give it more of a street, loose vibe, and it just works. The way he frames it, the way he shoots it, the way he conducts the scenes of action. Nothing is so over the top where it's like unbelievable and stupid like you would get in the 80s. Everything has a grit and a realism to them that makes you feel like you're almost just flies on the wall watching this thing take place. Great directing. And I'm going to add later on that the music and the use of music in this was top-notch also. But directing is what it is. Perfect. The writing! Dialogue is great. I don't get to say that very often on this channel, especially in a movie like this. But the dialogue is great. Harry is who he is. The people around him are who they are. You get to know the characters. You get to see who they are. You get to see how some of it is with a wink and a smile. But you get to know that through the dialogue. No punches are pulled. Nothing is cheap or just given away. It's good writing. It's solid dialogue. It's what you want in a motion picture. And in a movie that could be seen by some as an exploitation flick almost, the writing is really, you can't ask for more. The acting! The acting in this motion picture is spot on. Harry Callahan, a.k.a. Clint Eastwood, or vice versa, was made to play this character. Honestly, he's made to play this character. This is what Eastwood was meant to do. And he does it perfectly. And I have to say, before we go any further into this, I could bring it up later, but I'm going to bring it up now. Andy Robinson is one of the major players in this motion picture. He is so sick, so demented, so multifaceted as the villain Scorpio that he is just something. I mean, he leaves you feel dirty and skeevy just watching him. But he is so good in that role. He goes from playing simpish to playing wimpish to playing conniving to playing demented to playing sick. His performance in this motion picture is literally a tour de force in an acting role. Simply put, just the way it goes. You can have all the other great support actors in this, which there are, and everybody nailed it. But without a great antagonist, the protagonist has nothing to do. And this motion picture, out of all the Dirty Harry flicks, gives you that. You have a guy that is so sick, so demented, so off the rails, and so portrayed that way with a top-level acting, I don't know what word I'm looking for, but you get what I'm saying, is portrayed so well that you are like, I don't know what's going on, but this guy is disturbed, and I don't know if I'll ever see him in another movie where I don't think of him in this, because he is just that powerful in the role. Andy Robinson is literally probably about 30% of what makes this motion picture legendary and what makes it click and makes it stick in the people's minds. It's Clint Eastwood and the lunacy perfectly delivered by Andy Robinson. Okay, now what makes this motion picture work? We're going to touch on a bunch of things. First off, you have a bunch of well-rounded, well-fleshed out characters. A movie like this is very easy just to go down cartoon lane. It's extremely easy. Look what they did in the 80s with movies like Cobra. Shit, Cobra just hired half the cast of this. Reni Santoni was the new partner. Andy Robinson was in it. But they made it a cartoon. Hey, I like Cobra. But it was a cartoon. It was ridiculous. It was stupid and crazy. I liked it, but it was what it was. You know what I mean? Or in movies like Lethal Weapon. You know, another cop, his wife passed away, so he's a little bit... that kind of stuff. It's a little cartoonish compared to what you get here. This is a movie that felt grounded with really well-rounded, flushed-out, developed characters. There's a sorrow to Harry Callahan. There really is. There's almost a Hollow Man feel to his character. Yes, he goes through his job. Yes, he's cool to his friends. Yes, he's quick with the quips. Yes, he's hard on people. Yes, he's a bit of an asshole and doesn't give a shit to his bosses. But you always feel like there's something broken and missing inside of Harry Callahan. Let's face reality. You find out in the motion picture that his wife died, killed by a drunk driver. Maybe that's half of what made him into the guy he is today. Who knows? There's one point when Gonzalez's wife asks him, "Why do you do this? Why do you do this?" And he just literally says, "I don't know. I really don't." And you feel the emptiness, the brokenness of this guy, where he's just going through the motions of life to do what he does. Yes, he hates criminals. Yes, he wants to make a difference. But he realizes the system is a joke. He knows everything is just going to go downhill no matter what. He knows half the time he doesn't even want to do this. He makes these quips about doing it for like money or something like that. So he's 1 foot in, he's 1 foot out, but he's just going through the motions of life because he has nothing else left. The wife is dead. All he has is the job. He knows that the system is a piece of shit. He knows that it's never going to get better, but he just keeps doing what he does, and even he doesn't know why. And all the other characters in this motion picture are given enough time and enough development so you can relate to a Gonzalez, you can relate to DiGiorgio, you can even partially kind of relate to the mayor played by Vernon, who, yes, he's supposed to be the bureaucracy that sucks, but he's doing what he's trying to do just to keep everything together. So you have a lot of that going on. The characters are well developed, pretty rare in a motion picture like this. Also, Dirty Harry is a motion picture of its time. You have to understand cyclically, there's always these kind of shifts that happen within culture, where the law enforcement is good, then law enforcement is bad. And then law enforcement is good, then law enforcement is bad. We don't like the cops, so let's get rid of the cops and just empower criminals, and everything goes haywire. And then when everything goes haywire, everybody screams, bring the cops back, and then the cops come back, and then it just keeps revolving. And at this point in San Francisco in 1971, things had gone pretty off the rails. So the public, society was ready for a motion picture that says, what the hell is going on our streets? Why is everything so out of control? None of us feel safe. The shit's hitting the fan. We want somebody to come out and be that guy who says no more to the crime and no more to the criminals and cracks down on this shit. Even though we know it can't happen in real life, we want to see it. So at least we have a voice, and at least we have somebody out there showing that something can be done to what the hell is going on in our society. And that's what this motion picture was for its time. It could be rehashed and reused again later at other points in history when you have that wave and that crest, and that's what Harry Callahan was. He was law and order in a world gone crazy. He was simple logic, or let's just say common sense, in a world that didn't have any. So his character was a relief, a hero, a guy that was sitting there being the voice of the common man during a time when the common people's voices were not really being heard. And finally, the motion picture does have all the other things that a great motion picture you would want to see and or have. It's got great pacing. It's got a great flow. It's never fast. It's never slow. There's enough development. The action isn't too over the top. It's just a good street, gritty, the 7-Ups, the French Connection type vibe. And that's what people like and respond to. And another thing, the use of music in this motion picture is phenomenal. The Schifrin soundtrack is just amazing. And that's amazing because sometimes it's used in the perfect areas and then not used at all. You will not see it in many of the chase scenes. You will not see it in the whole school bus scene at the end. You will not see it when it's taking... It would interfere with the realism of what's going on. So, decisions like that, decisions like the pacing, the flushed out characters, the social commentary that is going on in the motion picture for in which the time it was made is all present in this motion picture with a great cast, with great actors, with great writing, and you put it all together and you've got yourself an iconic movie with an iconic character that has been often imitated, rarely duplicated, sometimes duplicated by Eastwood himself, but you get the idea. It stands alone, and it was really one of the first of its kind. Simple as that. Be good. Take care. Stay out of trouble. Be kind to a friend. Wait, no. Be there for a friend. Be kind to a stranger. Above all things, never take any bullshit from anybody. Be good, people. See you soon.